Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus has movies. So many movies. The movies you've seen 1,000 times and could watch 1,000 more. Iconic movies your friends can't believe you haven't seen. New movies, classic movies, new takes on classic movies. So whether you're into Top Gun or The Naked Gun, Mean Girls or Mission Impossible, Smurfs or Sonic the Hedgehog, there's a mountain of movies to discover on Paramount Plus. Start streaming today.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come into America.
Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. Well, we have a great show for you today. Bill Ackman, one of the smartest hedge fund guys. Will be interesting what he has to say. We have Senator Rick Scott, Lynn Shaw about problems with our kids, Saskia Thompson, and Bill Dussifly from the Kidney Foundation on progresses being made on kidney disease. Dr. Peter Mihalos, Live Long and Prosper. Steve Cates, what's going on up in the skies. Lee Zeldin on progress with the EPA and moving things along. And let's start off with the former governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo, possibly the next mayor of the city of New York.
With us this morning is Andrew Cuomo. And Governor, 10 days to the election, how do you feel?
I feel good, John. You know, I think New Yorkers tend to focus on elections when it comes down to it, right? But now, a few days to go, people are starting to focus. And what I get more and more is once they start to focus, we're filling a job for mayor of New York City. What is the job requirement for mayor of New York City? You want someone to make the city work, right? You need to make the city more affordable. We have to build affordable housing. We need to hire more police to focus on public safety. We have to get businesses coming back to New York rather than chasing businesses away from New York. We have to lower taxes. That's the job. And who can make government work? Who can actually get something done, right? Politicians talk a lot and then nothing happens. New Yorkers know, John, I know how to make government work. I know how to get things done. As governor, they saw me balance 11 budgets. They saw me restrict growth of budget. They saw me cut taxes for the middle class, cut the manufacturing tax, cut the estate tax. So I can get the job done, and I think that's what they're looking for. You have my main opponent is Mondami, and Mondami is a socialist, and if New York City adopts a socialist mentality, New York City has no future as a socialist city. We're about entrepreneurism. That's what brought everybody here.
The latest poll says that if Mondami gets elected, 25% of the people of the city of New York will consider leaving. If half of them leave, it will create a budget crisis.
Oh, John, there's no doubt about it. His whole plan is everything free. New Yorkers know there's nothing for free. He's going to astronomically increase taxes. Personal income tax, corporate tax, everything. And everybody who can leave will leave. Not just super rich people. Companies have to leave. Middle class have to leave. He wants to raise property taxes on white neighborhoods. is what he said. You'll see a massive exodus from New York. I have no doubt.
Last Tuesday night, me and Margot and Bill Ackman sat together with the president for 2 hours. He was really worried if Montgomery gets elected, it's going to create a crisis in New York City. And
I believe the president understands what's going on. I think he understands what the polls are saying. In a divided field, Mondami wins. He calls Mondami a communist. Mondami calls himself a socialist. You know, they're close to each other on that point. Mondami is not a Democrat. He's what they call democratic socialist, which is a cute play on words. Forget Democrat. He's a socialist who ran as a Democrat because the socialists want to take over the Democratic Party. The socialists want to take over the Democratic Party. I'm a Democrat. Mario Cuomo is the definition of a Democrat. Andrew Cuomo is the definition of a Democrat. Democratic Party is not what Mondami's talking about. We're a law and order party. He wants to defund the police. He wants to decriminalize prostitution. That's not Democrats. David Dinkins added more police when we had a crime problem. It's very important that Democrats understand, if you want to vote for a Democrat, you vote for me, not Zoran, who happens to be on the Democratic line.
I heard that the socialists, which are busy threatening all the Democrats, I heard that the socialists threatened Hakeem Jeffries with a primary, and that's the only reason that Hakeem Jeffries folded.
The socialists are threatening all the Democrats. This is an internal Democratic civil war. And what the socialists are saying to these Democrats is, if you don't support Zoran, you're next. That's what they're saying. And that's why these Democrats, the ones that endorsed Zoran, are endorsing him. Not because they agree with anything he says. Kathy Hochul, the governor, is a conservative Democrat from Erie County by Buffalo. She's not for decriminalizing prostitution. She's not for raising taxes to an absurd level on the rich. She doesn't support defunding the police, disbanding the police. These people want to abolish jails, John.
What really turned me off during the debate, when the revelation came that 80% of votes, Zoran in the assembly, he missed 80% of the votes. He has no clue about anything.
But, John, he doesn't even pretend. He has never had a job. He's 34 years old. He's the son of millionaires. He never had to work, so he never worked. And when he became an assemblyman, he never showed up. He passed 3 bills, which is like nothing. He missed more votes than anyone in the legislature. He's not serious about government or work. He's all political rhetoric. He's an actor. And in politics today, just being a performer on social media can take you a far distance. But what New Yorkers have to think about now is, hey, who can do the job? This is a real job here, Mayor. You wake up any morning as mayor. There can be a Hurricane Sandy. There can be a flood. God forbid, there can be another terrorist attack. You can't have a 34-year-old kid who's never had a job, doesn't understand anything about government, never managed anything. And now your first job, you're going to manage 300,000 people? It's like a bad joke.
Governor, I want to thank you for coming on. And let's catch up again in the next few days.
Thank you, John. And I want to say to your listeners, Democrat, Republican, we're New Yorkers first. And this is about saving New York. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, everybody needs the same thing done to save New York. And you know me, you know my experience, you know my track record, you know I'll get the job done for New Yorkers. Thank you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Lee Zeldin, and he is the EPA administrator. We are during a shutdown period in Washington, and how is that affecting us? Administrator Zeldin, how is that affecting us?
Over the course of these last few weeks, we were able to operate almost at 100% because of the carryover funding. EPA gets a lot of sources of funding that are multiple year. However, this past week was the first time we had a big furlough kick in of about 4,000 employees. When there's a total lapse of funding, the EPA would be furloughing about 89% of the agency. So hopefully congressional Democrats start voting yes instead of no on this clean government funding bill so that we could be fully operational. EPA at the beginning of the year had a little over 16,000 employees. We've been going through a reorganization that has the agency down to 12,500 employees. We'll actually get more done with less, more of our statutory obligations at 12.5 than what we saw this time a year ago. But the shutdown is starting to impact the EPA more here as it gets extended further here, close towards, we're almost at the 4-week mark.
I was with the president last week, along with you. He's got $17 trillion worth of new projects for America.
All year long, massive announcements of investments in the U.S., individuals and companies believing in the United States and the opportunities that are here in a way that's getting them to go big. We're not just talking about projects that cost into the tens of millions or hundreds of millions. We have projects being discussed into the many hundreds of billions of dollars per project. Just about a week ago, I was in West Memphis, Arkansas, where Google just 2 weeks ago broke ground on a $4 billion data center. The way that they're doing it, partnering with the state of Arkansas and Entergy, will actually result in a $1.1 billion benefit to the Entergy ratepayers. Across the country, we're seeing ground being broken all over. I was recently in Idaho Falls, Idaho, where a new nuclear site was having ground broken there. New pipelines that are advancing across the country. And it's just really great to see this massive investment that's been coming out through 2025.
And you know what I tell my friends? If General Motors wanted to move a plant to Mexico because they're going to save 15% on cost, what the president is saying is we're going to charge you 15% to bring it back.
And the other thing that he's doing is he's bringing agencies together to work on where there's overlapping jurisdiction equities. Too often in the past, agencies were siloed off. But the president created a National Energy Dominance Council at the beginning of this year. I mean, we just met with the president here a couple days ago on Friday, and it's about tag teaming these important priorities to work together, to cooperate, and their staffs to work together, and creating efficiencies, a permit process that takes less time, so that there's less time, less cost, and more certainty when deciding whether or not to invest in the U.S.
One of the big functions of EPA is probably the energy business, and I've heard the president talk about the coal industry, the oil industry, the gas industry. What is the secret?
You know, it's funny you bring this up. It's such an important topic. There are big pipeline investments right now, advancements that are being made across the entire country. In Alaska, a big LNG pipeline along the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. The Nessie Pipeline and Constitution, both that are proposed by Williams Company, would deliver natural gas to New York and through New York, including with great benefit to the residents, ratepayers of New England. There's a $5.3 billion expansion of Transwestern Desert expansion, delivering natural gas from New Mexico into Arizona. Enbridge has a pipeline that they're building through Wisconsin and Michigan, through the Great Lakes. It's just filled with opportunity all throughout America These pipeline projects are smart. It really doesn't make any sense that we've seen so much of these initiatives being blocked in the past. And President Trump has his team all working, all hands on deck every day to be able to get these pipelines over the finish line.
Are we going to be the system that delivers power to, we're talking about maybe getting SMRs, small modular reactors. Is that moving?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that Idaho Falls, Idaho project that I had just referenced, I was there a few weeks ago where that was breaking ground. That is an example of one of these sites breaking ground, and that company is in the process of building a whole bunch of other SMRs. It comes up often in topics when I'm meeting with leadership of massive organizations that are building big plants all across America. They are incorporating this technology into their plans all over in many different states. There is a big awareness of incredible opportunity in the nuclear space. These projects don't just have to be, the largest nuclear plant that's ever been built. A lot are valuing the technology of going with some of these smaller sites, and we at the Trump administration are looking to help however we can.
Now, I understand President Trump signed an executive order opening up the Arctic for more drilling. I mean, that will make North America the energy capital of the world.
Yeah, it makes so much more sense for us to reduce our reliance on foreign sources of energy, to become more of a net exporter, to create these jobs, to bring down energy costs for Americans, to reduce leverage of other nations elsewhere around the world. It's important for our national security, our economy, and it's also better for our environment because we here in the United States tap into these supplies so much better for our environment than so many other countries around the world. Again, the president sees the opportunity and he doesn't want to waste time. And these aren't hypothetical conversations for years in the future. He wants to get this stuff done right away.
EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, John.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Bill Ackman, and he is the Chief Executive of Pershing Square Capital Management. And the first thing that me and Bill are discussing about is making sure we have the right mayor in New York. Well, Bill, give us your opinion.
Well, I'm concerned. Is really the honest answer. I'm concerned because the mayor is a very important. The mayor is the CEO of New York City. I think that the mayor is also a very important symbol. And if we elect a Democratic Socialist, and if I encourage everyone to go to the Democratic Socialist website where you can see the agenda. It's not an agenda that's in the best interest of New York City and all of its residents. So that is a big concern.
I mean, there's 70% Democrats in New York City. How do we convince the Democrats that Andrew Cuomo is the real Democrat?
Look at socialist countries. If you look at the DSA website, they want to remove sanctions against Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran. Okay, those are the countries they're focused on in the DSA foreign policy. And if you look at Mandami's, track record to the president, and by the way, there's not much of a track record. One of the other important criteria for someone to be a mayor of a city is it's a management job. You're managing a massive budget, $100 billion plus budget, and he has no management experience. But if you'd spent 10 years running an important business or building a company or having experience hiring and firing and recruiting talent and all the things you need to do when you run a business, you would at least have the experience. But number one, he doesn't have the experience. Number two, if you look at his public statements, the videos that have come out, his posts that are still up on Twitter about, defunding the police and making it absolutely clear that's something that he wants to do, which of course he's now, because it's a threat to his election, he sort of denies that. I think this whole notion of building smaller prisons in the middle of important neighborhoods in New York City is a complete disaster. It's already massively multi-billions of dollars, over budget. But I would say Cuomo is kind of the common sense candidate at this point. He's like, you know what, you're right. Rikers needs a renovation. We need to make some investment in Rikers Island. He doesn't understand, that the notion that we're going to open up New York City operated supermarkets and somehow that's going to create lower cost food for people in New York City, or there's going to be a rent freeze. Number one, the only rents that are controlled, so to speak, are 25% of the rental housing stock in New York, and anyone who has a rent stabilized apartment is in a much better position than someone with a free market apartment. But again, what's happened, if you look at de Blasio, he froze the rents. And you had landlords, and by the way, there are a lot of small landlords that own 3 units, 4 units, 20 units, et cetera, and they can't make the math work.
Yes.
They can't afford to renovate units. They pull their units off the market. There's something like 50,000 units that are off the market because the landlord doesn't have it. So if you want to reduce, here's what they got to say: what he's right and what he's wrong. He is correct that New York City is not affordable for many people. He's right, but the solution isn't freezing rents. The solution is building new apartments, building new affordable housing. And again, here you have Cuomo. One of his better runs was at the head of HUD, and they built many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I don't even know the precise number of affordable units. He's a friend. He's business friendly, and I think the other really important thing about Cuomo is he didn't have a perfect governorship. He did a lot of things right. He did some things wrong.
And he learned a lot of lessons. The other revelation that came in during the debate the other night was the fact that the assemblyman, 80% of the votes he did not show up in.
I'll give him this. Okay,
yes.
He's articulate,
and he is a smart guy.
Yeah.
But he's
but
not.
By the way, there are a lot of smart people that have caused enormous harm in the world.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, because we have another minute or so left, is when me and you had dinner with the president, he told us that $17 trillion in new industries coming to the United States. Now, how is that figured in the Fed balance sheet or the budget for the United States? It's not figured in yet because it's still coming.
So number one, he talked about $17 trillion of investment coming into the country. And what that does for us is it means, more factories, more businesses, more jobs, more construction, more tax revenues. None of it appears on the balance sheet of the United States government, but it means more, number one, revenues coming into the government from taxes, more jobs, more people, more income, right? And then obviously the people who receive the income pay taxes. So it's like, it's a incredible good for America outcome. And what he said was, and I haven't checked the numbers, but he said that during the Biden administration, less than $1 trillion of foreign direct investment in the United States, and he's already made deals, he said, of $17 trillion. And they'll contribute very meaningfully to our economy. But let me give you a couple other reasons for optimism before I get off the phone. Number one, you have the most pro-business president we've ever had in the country, and that is, business is fundamentally a confidence game. And if business leaders are confident, they make investments. Again, this is one of my concerns for having a socialist mayor of New York. He's not going to inspire confidence among the business community. He's going to scare the business community because he's talked about seizing the means of production. But at the presidential level, you have a president that loves business, is a businessman himself, and that encourages CEOs to make investments, to acquire companies, to hire people, and that's very good for the economy. So that's the halo. And in terms of specifics, we have, infrastructure bill from the previous administration is actually only now shovels are starting to go into the ground. You have this massive AI investment where companies are literally spending hundreds of billions of dollars to build these data centers. That's a lot of construction jobs, a lot of enormous investment, land acquisition, et cetera, real estate taxes coming into communities all around the country, plus, of course, AI. And AI is going to be one of the most transformational technologies we've ever had. It's going to improve productivity. It's going to help us with scientific discoveries. It's going to help us reduce healthcare costs. It's going to have a very powerful effect on the country. I could go on and on, but the latest thing is deregulation. The Treasury Secretary and the President are focused on removing the unnecessary regulations that are interfering with, small businesses' ability to open and operate, big businesses, medium-sized companies. The banking system has been under really a horrendous degree of unnecessary regulation that's really made it more difficult for people to get loans.
Yes,
this is all happening in a backdrop where interest rates are coming down more.
Interest rates have to come down, and the other thing is regulations with the EPA and allowing industry to flourish.
Yeah, so I'm very bullish about the economy and the tailwinds that we're going into as we approach the second year of the presidency. There's also going to be a peace dividend. I think we're heading toward a real peace in the Middle East. That's going to create a ton of jobs for American companies and revenues that they're going to bring back home. Hopefully, he makes a deal with Putin. That looks like a tougher. And
hopefully, he makes a deal with Xi.
Yes, and he's got a big summit with Xi, which he seemed optimistic about. If the president can make peace in the Middle East, he can negotiate a deal with anyone. That's my view.
Bill Ackman, thank you so much, and let's keep discussing and delivering the truth to the American people. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Senator Rick Scott from the state of Florida. And, Senator Scott, a lot of things going on in Washington. Where do you want to begin?
Well, first off, I'm really frustrated with the Democrats. They have continued to shut down our government. We've had a bunch of votes this week to open up our government, and they vote against it every time. On top of that, we had a separate vote just to pay the people that are working, our military, our Capitol Police, TSA, air traffic controllers, and they voted against that. But they want to make sure they're getting paid. I have a bill I've had since I got up there, no budget, no pay, and the Democrats always block it because they want to get paid, but they're not worried about the FAA controllers or the military or the police, the Capitol Police that protect them. They're not worried about their ability to pay their mortgages. So that's pretty frustrating. I put out a report this week John, did you know this, that 80% of the generic drugs that Americans take are made in India and China. Almost all the ingredients come out of China. So guess what? Number one, they could shut that down and we'd have weeks of drugs in this country left. Number two is there's a study out of Indiana universities that said that you have a 54% increased chance of death and hospitalization if you take a generic drug from China and India. Our military is relying on them. You and I rely on them. This has got to change. We've got to fix this.
Do you remember during COVID, he threatened the Biden administration? They threatened that if they mention China too many times, that the fact is they'll stop sending us antibiotics. I mean, to put 80%, 90% of our business into one operation, that is a sin. You cannot do that. Yeah. I mean, we should have.
And they're not inspected. I mean, John, they're not. The FDA doesn't do the same sort of inspections they do on drugs made in this country. So this has got to change. We've got to wake up.
We agree 100%, 100%, because right now my arsenic count is a little bit high. And my wife's arsenic count is a little bit high. We're thinking it's one of the vitamins that's maybe made in China or in India.
Yeah, you have no idea. You think about it, John, when you go to your grocery store, you have to disclose where that green pepper is produced. Why don't you have to disclose anything else you put in your body? Like, shouldn't you have everybody know where that generic drug came from? And shouldn't they know if it's been inspected? And shouldn't they know if it is going to possibly cause you to die? So, I mean, this is crazy. And you know, the other thing, we've got to figure out how to get healthcare costs down. We have got, and the only way to do it, John, is we've got to allow the free market to work. Obamacare has failed us. It has completely failed. Remember how Obama said, oh, you get to keep your doctor. Lie. You get to keep your plan. Lie. Healthcare costs are going to come down, $2,500 a family. Lie. The government's going to save money. Lie. So we have got to do it. Now, you know what? You know why we get groceries at good prices? Because there's competition. You get to buy whatever grocery you want. Why don't we get to do the exact same thing in healthcare? Let's let unbelievable competition let you buy whatever insurance you want, right? And guess what? If everybody was buying their health care, they would be smarter about it. So
yes,
we got a lot of work to do.
Yes, we got a lot of work to do. And tell us about I mean, are we? Is the government ever going to open up? I mean, at what point? At what point do the Democrats cease to worry about the migrants and worry about our citizens more?
I don't think they're going to, John. I don't see a date that this is going to open. They are so think what they're fighting over. They want to make sure, number one, that the illegal immigrants came here illegally. You might like them. They came here illegally. We pay for their health care. Number two is all of our taxpayers, we're going to pay for abortions and trans surgery. That's wrong. Republicans are not going to vote for that. It's not going to happen. So what we have to do is, we have to say we're going to keep having votes. We're going to keep saying we want to open up government. We want to pay people that are working. We want to make sure people can get health care, right? But the Democrats, they're on the opposite side of all those things.
Well, thank you, Senator Rick Scott. God bless you and God bless America.
All right. Bye, John.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. With us is Dr. Peter Michalos. Live long and prosper, and we do want to live longer. Dr. Michalos, what do you have up your sleeve today to make us live longer?
Well, John, I really want to talk about something that's very important and getting back to the basic and essential vitamins and trace minerals for longevity. And sometimes people forget about that. And many times when we go for blood tests, nobody ever checks levels for things like copper or magnesium or zinc. And these are very important minerals. For example, zinc is very important for immunity, for DNA synthesis, for wound healing and repair when you injure your skin. But it's also, you have to know your balance, because like during COVID, many people took a lot of zinc, but zinc turns out to compete and block copper absorption. Now, copper turns out to be very important for energy production, nerve health, and cognitive function, and also immune support. So if you take too much zinc, it blocks copper absorption. And there was a case where a young man, for example, had loss of hair, increased heart rate, and anxiety, and that was associated because the doctor who I told him to have a measurement of his blood found very low copper levels, and he was taking a lot of zinc during COVID. So that's a very important element and mineral that is part of our longevity, and that is the balance between the zinc and the copper. Then, of course, we have magnesium, which is very important because it's involved in 300 enzyme reactions in our body, involved in energy production, and even blood sugar control is involved in magnesium. And it also is very helpful because it helps with sleep, and it also helps lower blood pressure. And that's why a couple of times a week at night, I personally take some magnesium glycinate, and I find that if I wake up and I measure my blood pressure, it definitely has an effect on lowering blood pressure a bit. And it also helps with sleep, and magnesium also helps with regularity for people who experience that issue. And the other one is calcium. It's very important for strong bones, for strong teeth, and for nerve conduction. And it turns out that there's a relationship between calcium and vitamin D, because vitamin D turns out to be sort of the navigator and the directioner, telling the calcium to go into the bone. So it helps with strong bones by facilitating calcium going into the bones, and that's the vitamin D in the K2 form. So getting back to the other microelements, the selenium is also an antioxidant and important for thyroid health. And, of course, our potassium helps our fluid balance, our muscle function, blood pressure regulation, and our heart muscle. And then we get into some of the vitamins like B12, which promotes healthy DNA synthesis and brain function, very important for our nerves. And vitamin C, of course, powerful antioxidant, which cleans up free radicals, which are the bad cells, and then it helps clean things up. And it's also for collagen production for our skin. That's how it got discovered by people who didn't have healing repair on long sea voyages, and then they started taking limes and lemons and putting them in the water, and that's how they discovered scurvy, and that's why they call the British sailor limeys, because they transported limes on long voyages to help with their skin. Of course, there's vitamin E, which is for inflammation. It's also an antioxidant. And, of course, omega-3 fatty acids, which we find in things like good salmon and fish oil, which reduces inflammation, and it helps us with brain and heart health. So this is just some of the things that we know that are involved in longevity, and a lot of the good foods in the Mediterranean diet already contain a lot of these things. But now that we have these sophisticated blood tests and we can actually measure levels of all these things, including the B vitamins, you know exactly what your dashboard of your body is showing, and then you can make adjustments and take a little bit more or a little bit less, so you don't get very high levels, or if your levels are low, you know how much to start taking. But the importance of taking measurements is a very important part of longevity in all these wonderful trace minerals, and our Creator just did an amazing job of creating all this balance.
We're really a complex machine that if you push one button in, another button gets kicked out sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very delicate, fine balance, and basically we now know 20% of our destiny is our genes, 80% is how we take care of it. So think of it as our Creator, we get this new body, and how we treat it and how we take care of it, keep the oil level, the fluid levels, the temperature, all these different things. We got to keep them in balance, and all these micronutrients are found already in the food that is provided for us on this planet. But we've stripped some of the soil, and we started creating processed foods instead of natural foods and eating farm to table. So that's why sometimes we have to supplement it, because some of our food, like the tomatoes, for example, we have in Niceros Island, compared to the tomatoes that we buy sometimes, you see the difference and the texture and the vitamin levels because of the soil, because our soil speaks to us through our gut microbiome. So it's an amazing area, and we want our listeners to know about these important vitamins. Discuss them with your doctor before you take anything, and think about checking your levels so you know and you have a baseline of where you are. Well,
Dr. Michalos, let me tell you, the only bad experience I've had is the fact that if your B12 is too high, you end up itching.
Yeah, you can, that does happen, and that's why I.
So if anybody out there is itching, check your B12 content.
Absolutely. Check your blood test and talk to your doctor before you start any program, and keep listening for more longevity health tips.
Live long and prosper. Thank you so much, Dr. Michalos.
Thank you, John, for always getting the truth out on Cats Roundtable.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Saskia Thompson, and she's the director of the National Kidney Foundation, and Bill Dussifly, and he's chairman of the advisory group for National Kidney Foundation. Well, so many people are suffering from kidney disease and kidney problems. Saskia, tell us the progress we're making in kidney care.
Well, thanks so much for having us, John. So, as you stated, so many people are suffering from kidney disease, over 30 million Americans, and more than 2 million people right in the New York area. And I think the greatest challenge with kidney disease is that it often has no symptoms. And so, unfortunately, 90% of the people who have kidney disease don't even know they have it. So that's a big problem. The good news is that in the last couple of years, there have been so many advancements and innovation in the kidney care space. So if people are diagnosed early with chronic kidney disease, they have the chance to turn that around with lots of new therapies. We, as the National Kidney Foundation, are moving the needle to advance living transplants. So for those people who advance into kidney failure, we are trying to shorten that wait time for a life-saving transplant. So, we are working on all angles, helping people manage dialysis, catching chronic kidney disease early so that they can turn it around, because 12 people are dying every day waiting for a transplant, and that's just not okay. We are so fortunate at the National Kidney Foundation, serving the greater New York area, to have Bill Defifee, who has been involved with the National Kidney Foundation for over 20 years. And with his leadership and support, we are really raising awareness in the greater New York area. And Bill, as a business leader, I would love for you to share why it is that you spend so much time with us and raising awareness about kidney disease.
Well, thanks, Saskia and John. It's good to hear from you both. And Saskia, those statistics are staggering. And I'm part of a community of, sorry about that, insulin-dependent diabetic. I've been a diabetic for many years. About 20 years ago, I decided that I wanted to get involved. And a client of mine actually told me about kidney disease. And kidney disease and heart disease and diabetes, they're all related. So when I looked into the organization, the National Kidney Foundation, I decided to put my time and effort into that. And when I realized, as part of that, not a lot of people know and are aware of the statistics that Saskia just gave. So many people are affected by kidney disease, they don't even know it. So I decided to get involved. My diabetes had a correlation, so I was concerned for myself, but other people I know who have those chronic conditions. And I got involved. And the thing we really needed to do at first was get people aware of the risk factors. And then we wanted to educate not only the potential patients, but also the medical community on what tests we should give people so they could catch the disease early. And that leads to prevention. How can you, if you know you have risk factors, do things to improve your life? Better diet, exercise, getting the right tests, things like that. And the final thing is when people are diagnosed with CKD, how do we get them help? Is it a living donation? Is it a deceased donation? Is it not a cure, but a Band-Aid is called dialysis? At the end of the day, all of these things are available, but the most important thing is making people aware. I do in-work programs to have people aware of what the factors are. It's amazing to me that people know people in their lives that have it or learn about the risk factors. So my involvement was really selfishly to help me understand my condition, but it really went out and grew because of what the conditions are out there for all of us. We have to take care of our people. We have to take care of those at risk, and we work together. And it's a lot of work. Saskia's done a great job. We try to raise money through our annual walk. We're a competition with other not-for-profits, which is fine, but we have to make our message out there. Education, awareness, and prevention.
Tell me, Saskia, if people want more information, do you have a website that they go to?
So, yes, we have a website, kidney.org, where people can get all kinds of information about their condition, their risk factors, what their 2 simple tests that are actually covered by insurance that you can take to get an early diagnosis. But I also wanted to share that, I think awareness, because this is a silent disease, is so important. And we're actually having a huge awareness walk on Sunday, November 9th, starting at Foley Square in downtown Manhattan, going over the Brooklyn Bridge. We expect thousands of people to come out, the medical community, patients, kidney transplant recipients, patients on dialysis, families, as part of the movement to raise awareness about kidney disease and help us raise resources to support those people on their journey. So that website is kidneywalk.org/NYC, kidneywalk.org/NYC. And I would invite everyone in the area to come out and join us, learn more. It is a fundraiser, but it's an awareness raiser. If you just want to check it out, our staff will be there. Thousands of people will be there who are on this journey. Doctors, you can ask questions. We want to help every person every step of the way.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. And any progress our listeners want to hear, please let us know.
Thank you, John, and thank you for that, Saskia. John, thanks again.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Steve Cates, also known as Dr. Sky. Well, what's the mysteries today and what's going on?
Well, good morning, John. Happy Sunday. We go back in history. On this date, back in 1959, the Soviets got the first image of the far side of the moon with something called Luna 3. And now we know that the far side of the moon, the Chinese have even landed there. But this week in space history, the first Saturn V moon rocket was actually launched, as we know the rest of the Apollo story. But John, closer to home, most people know by now SpaceX Starlink satellite cluster. I look in the telescope just about every other night, John, and I can't help but say, everything I'm looking at in space, I'm seeing nothing but these satellites moving back and forth, about 8,700 of these Starlink satellites. But many people may not know there's another type of Starlink-type satellite called Starship. And what are these? They're national security satellites that SpaceX put up there. National Reconnaissance Office is really responsible for about 180 of these. And they have a very interesting story. They're probably there to defend in the event of any future space warfare, with Space Force. And they're actually doing something very strange. Some people are actually receiving signals that they're downlinking stuff on frequencies that are pretty much prohibited. So the story is, there's more to the story of Starlink with this mysterious group of spacecraft for national security called Starship. Amazing stuff, don't you think?
Yeah, well, I was up on my airplane the other day, and I had signed up for that service.
Yes.
And it does come in.
It's absolutely wonderful. I have it at my home here in Arizona, and not to just do a PR campaign, commercial for them. You're right. It actually works, but here's the problem. We have so many of these satellites in the sky, not blaming SpaceX. Don't think that this is the end. They're going to put many, many more up there. Jeff Bezos wants to do his Kuiper constellation. The Chinese are doing it. So the space area, as we've talked about, in low Earth orbit, John, is extremely crowded. We're hoping we don't have satellite collisions. That's a possibility in the near future, too, but we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, we've talked about it in the past. There's so many satellites up there, you're going to need a garbage truck soon.
Absolutely. Here's another interesting story. Why, if the government's not responsible, as many people believe, with all these contrails in the sky, how come since the government shutdown are we seeing little or no contrails in the sky? Now, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but the truth is, John, many people believe that geoengineering is taking place. I can't say for a fact that the government's responsible, but what would you think, John, that if you're seeing hardly any contrails in the sky since the government shut down, you can't just blame them on regular commercial airlines? What do you think? That's amazing.
The truth is, I don't know what the truth is. So I'm always honest with you. I don't know. I have not looked into it in detail, but the truth is, we don't know what the truth is.
You better believe it, and we'll continue to investigate here as we talk every Sunday, opening our minds. But, John, we have a story, the mystery of the week. Now, this is really amazing. Some claim that the Third Reich, Nazi Germany, developed anti-gravity technology. And they did this with many high-level scientists. One nuclear physicist and quantum physicist known as Dr. Werner Heisenberg was allegedly involved in this project. Now, before we tell you what they found out, or what they believe could be true, remember, the Germans had developed the first jet aircraft, the Messerschmitt 262, the V-1 and V-2 rockets, and they also developed, way before we ever had the flying wing, something called the Horten bomber, which is literally a flying wing. So here's the mystery. Some claim that the Germans developed this bell-shaped craft called the De Glocker, and that it was powered by some red mercury kind of radioactive substance. We never found the craft. But, John, not to go into conspiracies, but if this were to be true, with all the other great technologies that Nazi Germany developed, not that they were a good group, obviously not, but isn't it possible that anti-gravity technology came around a long time ago? And that is the mystery of the week.
Well, I can certify, I don't want to use the word certify, that it does exist, because the fact is that we were buying a company at one time that they had that technology. But I can't talk about it. I can't tell you the name of the company.
I hear you, John, and that secret needs to be kept tight. But yet again, who knows? And that's why we talk about these great mysteries. If people want to learn more about it, it's known as the De Glocker. It was called the Nazi Bell, a bell-shaped spacecraft or something. But again, nobody actually has the remains of it. Who knows? It could be just a big story in a conspiracy world, but you got to give them credit for the development of advanced technology.
Steve Cates, otherwise known as Dr. Sky, thank you so much, and we'll catch up again real soon.
Always a pleasure. Have a good Sunday.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Lynn Shaw. Tell me what subject we're on.
I want to talk about Virginia Giuffre, who they said committed suicide last April. She was the catalyst for the whole Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell coming forward. Her picture with Prince Andrew, and her book was released yesterday. So this is Sunday, so we can just say, recently. And her memoir really details how she brought down and is bringing down as we speak Prince Andrew, and how she really was the one who got other victims of Jeffrey Epstein to step forward and start this whole thing. But now this is such an important memoir for victims and survivors, not only of Jeffrey Epstein, but of all, sexual abuse, all of that. But what is going on? Because we don't have any answers. The government has kind of shut down on it. But this book is truly a catalyst for somebody who bravely came out and was told she'd be protected, but John, she's dead now. So it kind of goes into survivors and victims and all of and protecting our children.
And they want to pass suicide laws, and they want to pass. I don't know what's going on in our country. It feels like we're in bizarro world sometimes, Lynn.
Well, let me tell you something, John. So I will never say this on air or in public. It is really even at a standstill. Forget the shutdown in the government. Our president is going all in globally for AI, and he's sitting at the table with everybody in big tech. And that's well, good, and fine. We should be global leaders in America with everything. But he will not address, they are not addressing all of this child safety, everything we talk about. And it's so shocking because his first administration, he was all in. And he ran on, human trafficking and the borders. And yes, he shut down the borders. That's good. But right now, Democrats and Republicans alike, because this is bipartisan work, are really very upset behind the scenes. It's not, everything's stalled. And he called this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, he called it a hoax. He shouldn't have said that. So he's really right now globally being really, in my opinion, run by big tech. They're at the table. They're helping build the ballroom. They're helping with the Rose Garden, the new patio and umbrellas.
Well, if he really knew, I know him very well. I had dinner with him the other night. And if he really knew what the heck is going on, and I'll bring it to his attention, Lynn.
But, John, I spearheaded a human trafficking roundtable in July at the White House. Now, he was not present. I was pushing for the First Lady to be brought in because she was part of our Take It Down Act, which he and Melania signed in the Rose Garden back in May. So they were aware of child safety. We brought parents in. It was a beautiful ceremony, so I thought I could get her Be Best campaign. Not only she's interested in, foster care education, this whole digital safety, real-time safety could be part of that. But any help, John, I could appreciate. I'm off to Washington in the morning. Our New York State, just so you know, leaders are so weak. Schumer, I'm represented by Nadler, Gillibrand. They won't even do meetings with me. And I've been after them for 5 years about things. And I'm going tomorrow. I'm just going to go to their offices in Washington. But we have a great piece of legislation right now called Kids Online Safety Act. And it's just, we're in our 5th year with this, and it's sponsored by Marsha Blackburn and Richard Blumenthal. It's at a standstill. There is something going on. Everybody is in the administration right now. They don't want to address any of this, which is shocking to me because he was so into all of this, the first administration. And it's crazy. Look what's happening.
Lynn, I know you care about kids, and I care about kids. If the president himself knew what's going on, I'm sure he would do something about that. And I will make sure we bring it to his attention.
He needs to hear the hard facts kind of thing. And I don't think I think you're correct, John, I don't think that's getting to him. This is a national crisis with our kids and our grandkids. These are our future adults, our future leaders. It is really tough out there. I will never admit that in public or on air, but it is very odd what's going on in Washington right now regarding child safety.
Well, thank you so much, and let's catch up again real soon.
Thank you.
The Cats Roundtable.
If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. Every Sunday morning, we'll bring you the latest in what's happening in our community, our country, and the world. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a nice Sunday.